Councillors, for the opportunity to present the report from the Trust of the Lake Taupo Cycle Challenge. Introduced, I'm the chairman for the 2012 year. My name is Dennis Jenkins. I think most of you know me as the Post Shop Kiwi Bank manager. Could I introduce the management and trustees here? Kay, would you like to stand up, please? Kay is the event director, was appointed last year and has been confirmed as the event director for this year. Thank you, Kay. She will be available for questions at the end. I have two fellow trustees here. Alan Vane, well known I think in the town, the Pine. He is a trustee of long standing. He's the independent trustee. And Josh Edlin, who is recently appointed as a replacement for Murray Stanley as a presidential appointment. And so he is a new person and he will also be available to answer questions as required. The report is bulleted on the slides and I'll be talking through those. It'll take just short of 15 minutes, which leaves us 15 minutes for questions at the end. So make notes if you wish to ask anything. All right, so the Cycle Challenge is now 36 years old. I think you all know that. It's the New Zealand's largest cycling event. Over 160,000 riders over the last 35 years. The main, what we call round the lake event, is not a race. It's actually a ride, but we have added over the years a range of road races, road events, mountain bike events to cater for a whole variety of New Zealanders and overseas riders. It's an integral part of Taupo. There is absolutely no doubt about that, and the community is a major stakeholder. They take ownership of the event and welcome the visitors when they arrive during the week prior to the event and during the event itself. So I've given you some numbers just to show the close link between the Taupo residents and the visitors during the event. Firstly, last year we had 9,107, about 9% down on the riders from the previous event, the Rugby World Cup. The economy generally and election day had a slight negative effect on the numbers. A research study done by the New Zealand Tourism Research Institute in January 2010 confirmed that each rider brings about 1.5 extra people, family support. So you end up with last year, about 23,000 visitors in town. So we virtually double the population. I think you all know that as councillors. Visitor spend. Now this was 2009. I haven't extrapolated it for last year, but the total spend in 2009 was 4.64 million, of which retained in Taupo by way of wages and direct services bought locally was over 2 million. And of course the secondary round is the wages being spent in Taupo. So you've actually got a significant economic contribution to the district. The business community were asked what is the benefit to the Cycle Challenge to the wider business community. Again, this is from the 2009 event study. Great or very great benefit, 70%. And if we added the somewhat benefit to the wider business community with another 25, so you ended up with 95% endorsement by locals and business of the event for the Taupo and Taupo town. Second slide, let's move on. Again, it's the community as the stakeholder. Firstly, there are the volunteer groups. There are 26 groups, around 1,000 people, sports clubs, service clubs, schools, church groups, etc. Not only Taupo, because we have Motuopa, Oranui, Tauranui, Turangi, all part of the volunteer groups. In terms of accommodation, they of course have a great weekend and a few days leading up to it. In terms of the hospitality industry, they are very positive towards the total event. It's good for their business. Two areas, however, of the retailers aren't that happy. Other tourism operators and activities find a fall-off on that particular weekend, and there are some of the retailers say, well, they're all out watching the events, not shopping in town. However, remember the wider business community, a 95% benefit. And finally, wherever possible, we use local contractors for supply of whatever, and providing they have the resources and are price competitive, we do prefer local suppliers and contractors. Third slide. Again, it's almost here community as the beneficiary. I've headed it financials. You can look at the income. I've put 2 years, 2011 to 10. You'll see the entries was down slightly. Commercial and other, however, was up significantly as a result of Kay and her team working on that side of the business, and the sponsorship was slightly above for 2011. So our budget process is always conservative, given that it's a one-day event with half the riders registering in the last 6 weeks. Think about that. Half the riders register in the last 6 weeks. And although we have trends, economic circumstances and other events could impact. So we are very conservative on budgets. We have to ensure that our fixed expenses are covered. Things like fencing, like traffic management, the buses and the trucks, paying St John's to be available, all the volunteer activities, the portaloos, all of those things are fixed expenses, and we need to be very conservative about our financial expenditure. So by expanding our commercial area, which Kay did last year deliberately, like the Expo, and a tight control over the supply contracts, a significant surplus was achieved. As you can see, 156,000. If you turn to the next slide, this is where it goes. There are different distributions. The first is to the volunteer groups. 26 groups last year, around 1,000 individuals. This is included in the event expenses paid out prior to declaring the surplus. So if you add the 86 to the 156 on the previous slide, you're up to $242,000 from last year's event available for eventual distribution. I think some of you would have seen the paper this morning with the first 50,000 distribution to the Rotary of Club of Taupo Moana's Charitable Trust last week. That's the first divvy. The second is the beneficiary of the LCC Trust itself, which is the Rotary Club of Taupo Moana, and proceeds are required to be distributed within the Taupo District. So that's as we go throughout the year. The third is the official charity. We call it the Charity of Choice, which is at heart. Through donations and web fundraising, they received $50,500 last year. That is not in the accounts. So that's in addition to, but of course that's a national, not a local charitable organisation. Event highlights. As Taupo, to all of us, is location, location, location. Our message to all riders is safety, safety, safety. And keep safe and sound the whole lake round, I think was probably invented by Keith over here, and it is still our significant mantra for us. This emphasis on safety is our number one focus and is strongly endorsed by the council, yourselves, the police particularly, and all of the cycling organisations. This ensures that we can report from St John's. There's the accidents, 54 minor, 9 moderate, and no serious, no critical. We wish to keep that up year after year. We do not want anything worse than that. So in terms of safety, we undertook an independent safety audit to ensure that we met and exceeded industry standards in event management from a safety point of view, and we received Outdoor Mark accreditation last year, valid for 3 years, and we review that each year. Contact Energy, who are our principal partner, also reviewed the event management, and thanks to Kay and her team, paid the full 10% retention in full, which was 100% endorsement by our principal partner of the event management, processes, procedures, and the outcome. Sponsors. Next slide. Our sponsors are obviously an essential ingredient in the success of our event. You can see their gross income under the financials there. But not only are they financial contributors, but they provide a range of extra services and guidance and support in their total package. Those continuing and confirmed this year include Contact Energy as our principal partner, Avanti, More FM and Peak Fuel as Gold. We are looking for a replacement for Sanyong, who were a very valued gold sponsor last year, so we are looking to replace that. There are also 30 subsidiary, we call them silver and supporting sponsors, which are all in place for this year. So altogether there's around 35 sponsors. Audit report. I put down 5 major headings. In July last year, we were made aware of possible misappropriations by the event director, Rob McKnight. Investigations confirmed that travel prizes meant for participants had been converted for personal use. The Trust suspended Mr McKnight as the event director and shortly thereafter as sponsorship director. We appointed Kay Brake as the acting event director and subsequently confirmed her in that position, and she is running the show this year. Now, to ensure financial integrity of the challenge, we engaged a forensic auditor to examine the financial activities of Mr McKnight within the Cycle Challenge context. As the auditor offered to us, thanks to you, the Council, he was also experienced in governance audit, so we also commissioned him to review the governance of the event generally and asked him to make recommendations for change and improvement. So we had the McKnight issue one, and we asked him to please report on governance issues as well. This took longer than was expected. It was a 10-week process for the auditor, and he delivered his report to us in mid-December. The trustees studied the report over the holidays and made final decisions and responses during mid to late February. The report was then discussed with the major stakeholders, which included sponsors, obviously, the Rotary clubs, and finally published at the end of February. The Trust then scheduled priorities, the first being whether to lay a complaint with the police regarding the Mr McKnight issue, and the second being the development of a strategic plan. The complaint was laid last week, and the strategic plan process has been started. Finally, last slide, here is the governance and management organisations for 2012. The governance is the Trust's responsibility and the management is contracted. So if we look at the trustees, our focus is it is a charitable trust working under the Charities Commission. We look after the financial side of it, the risk, the monitoring, approval of payments and budgeting approval, and we are responsible for the risk. The contractors, which is Kay's team, event planning and delivery. Their roles starts about a month ago and runs through to December. It's about a 10-month year event planning and delivery. Remuneration, since 2010, there has been no remuneration for trustees, and prior to that there was only specific remuneration for jobs done, and I can let Alan talk to that. It is a completely voluntary job, and if you read the Taupo Times this morning, back page, you'll find an advert for a new trustee, which is the TBA down the bottom, where the Rotary Club of Taupo Moana has advertised publicly for an additional trustee. That's to replace Mike Langley, trustee of several years, who retired at the end of December. So we're looking for a replacement for them. From the contractor's point of view, their remuneration is a contract fee established at the beginning of the event year. Kay is the event director. She has 3 other major directors, Jenny Woodmass, who helped us last year. At the end as a volunteer, she's administration director. Arthur Corbett, I think well known to everybody here, as course operations, works through most of the events in Taupo, and Hayden Dickerson, a new appointment, looking after sponsorship and communications. That concludes our report, and it's now question time, and I do have my 2 fellow trustees plus my event director with me, and so Alan, Josh and Kay can assist me because we do spread the workload. As it's voluntary, that helps.
Well, thank you, Mr. Jenkins, for your presentation so far and your generous offer to open it for questions. So I'll do that with my fellow councillors and Councillor Mincher.
Thank you, Dennis. Thanks to the trustee for being here, Alan. Just out of interest, it seems that you might have split Rob's past role up. You've got someone that just does sponsorship and you had the event director instead. They were combined last time?
Yes, we did have him as the 2 roles, and the Trust felt that it was probably wise to have the separation. The issue of the sponsorship is a major role in itself. It is a significant part of our total fundraising, and the separation of duties was thought, let's keep it totally separate. So we've made that as a permanent